Hi, good day. So, welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about the main literary forms. So, when we say main literary forms, these are about fiction, drama, and poetry. So, we will go to each of them. We will go deeper. So, this is a continuation of what we had previously. We talked about the literary genres, but this time we will talk about the main literary forms. Okay? So, shout out sa mga students ko sa great books. This lesson is for you. So I just hope you watch from start to finish because there are questions in between that you are going to answer. I don't want you to miss those questions. Okay, you know that already. So please watch the entire video and you need to answer the questions in between. Simple questions. Okay. So well, anyway, I am live now. So if there are like some errors, well, I'm so sorry. That is the disadvantage of going live. Anyway, so let us be natural. I will try all my best to explain the best I can. But anyway, I got this from university in the US, this presentation. I really like the way they present it. So thank you to the rightful owner. Okay. I don't see the author. So it says that it comes from the university and uh, in the US. Okay. Well, anyway, I am going to discuss. We're going to go to each of them, the fiction, drama, and poetry. Again, guys, don't miss the questions. I don't want you to miss the questions. You need to answer all of them. So please don't skip the video. You have to finish from start to, you have to finish. Yes, of course. So from start to finish. Okay, guys. So, well, anyway, we have here what, why, and how. That's the question in literature. So when we say what, why, and how, the terms and why do we need to study them and how are we going to do it? How are we going to study them? So without further ado, let's go. Okay. Well, when we say fiction and drama, then we're going to discuss about the types and terms, and then poetry, types and terms, and then sample essay on a poem. So now the question, guys, what are the main literary forms? Remember that literary forms. What are these? So, the main literary forms are fiction, drama, and poetry. Well, in our previous lesson, we discussed about fiction. Okay, so this time we will discuss deeper. Okay, so although each of these three major literary genres, fiction, drama, and poetry, are different, well, they are really different. They have many elements in common. Take note of that. And what are these elements in common? For example, in all three genres, authors make purposeful use of diction, word choice, employ imagery, significant detail, and each piece of literature has its own unique tone, and that is emotional quality. So, an important element that you will find in all three genres is theme. This is the larger meaning. So, there is a theme in fiction, there is a theme in drama, and there is a theme in poetry. So, this is the larger meaning or meanings the reader derives from the poem, story, novel, or play. So each of the literary genres is distinguished by its form. Fiction is written in sentences and paragraphs. Take note, fiction in sentences and paragraphs. Poetry is written in lines and stanzas. And drama is written in dialogue. Well, we had that before, like the fiction. Right. So let's continue. And the second question here is why is knowing them important, guys? Why do we need to study them? Why do we need to study about fiction? Why do we need to study about poetry and drama? Okay? So, well, of course, we are dealing with great books. We have to study these things for us to have this important reason why. Okay? To know, for us to know this. Okay, as you read different forms of literature, You will need to know specialized vocabulary to be able to best understand, interpret, and write about what you are reading. Also, how you approach a literary text and what you focus on will depend on its literary form. For instance, fiction and drama are typically anchored by readers' engagement with characters. So when we are going to read a fiction, when we are going to read a drama, there are characters. While many poems do not contain a character or tell a story. Therefore, plot is often not a factor in a poem. So a poem can be an impression of reflection about a person, a place, an experience, or an idea. So the poem is somehow like that. It's quite different compared to fiction and drama. So how do I approach each form? How are we going to approach fiction, drama, and poetry? Fiction. Okay, see the book. Know the different types of fiction. How are you going to approach fiction? So we need to know the different types of fiction. And what are these different types? Okay, later. So short stories are usually defined as being between 2,000 to 6,000 words long. That name or that term is short stories. Okay, the term is short stories, but 2,000 to 6,000 words long. So most short stories have at least one rounded, developed, and complex character, and any number of flat, less developed, simpler characters. So when we say rounded, that character of a story is developed and complex. When we say flat, less developed and simpler. So short stories tend to focus on one major source of conflict and often take place within one basic time period. So that is one of the types of fiction. Next, novellas. Novellas generally run between 50 to 150 pages, halfway between a story and a novel. Then novels don't have a prescribed length because they are a longer form of fiction, and an author has more freedom to work with plot and characters, as well as develop subplots and move freely through time. Characters can change and develop over the course of time, and the theme can be broader and more intricate than in shorter forms of fiction. Okay, so you have already the short stories, the novellas, and novels. Okay, what's the difference between novellas and novel? Have in the comment section. Okay, in your own term. Next, drama. Let's have drama. All right. Know the different types and structure of drama. So drama types, we have tragedy. What's tragedy? Generally serious in tone, focusing on a protagonist who experiences an eventual downfall. So yung bida natin, there is a downfall. Okay. Comedy. Light in tone, employs humor, and ends happily. Of course, the name itself, comedy. Then satire, exaggerated and comic in tone for the purpose of criticism or ridicule. So satire, so exaggerated and comic in tone for the purpose of criticism or ridicule. You are going to criticize. Then there is sarcasm in there. Experimental can be light or serious in tone. It creates its own style through experimentation with language, characters, plot, and etc. And then musical can be light or serious. It can be light or serious. The majority of the dialogue is sung rather than spoken. Okay, so these are the types of drama. And then we have the drama structure. Plays are organized into dialogue, scenes, and acts. So a play can be made up one act or multiple acts. Each act is divided into scenes in which a character or characters come on or off stage and speak their lines. I know you can imagine, okay, the theater. A play can have only one character or many characters. The main character is the protagonist, and the character who opposes him or her is the antagonist, ang kontrabida. The plots of plays typically follow this pattern: rising action, complications the protagonist must face, okay? Composed of any number of conflicts and crises. Then climax, the peak of the rising action and the turning point of the protagonist. And then the falling action, this is the movement toward a resolution. Okay. Then commonalities, the commonalities in fiction and drama terms. Both fiction and drama are typically anchored by plot and characters. Take note, guys. Fiction and drama typically anchored by plot and characters. They also contain literary themes as well as having other elements in common. So we will look at literary terms that can be applied to both of these literary forms. So we have plot. So when we say plot, what do we mean by this one? Plot is the unfolding of a dramatic situation. It is what happens in the narrative. Be aware that writers of fiction arrange fictional events into patterns. They select these events carefully. They establish causal relationships among events, and they enliven these events with conflict. Therefore, more accurately defined, plot is a pattern of carefully selected, casually related events that contain conflict. So, plot, the situation. How do you imagine? How is the story being arranged by the author or by the writer? There are two general categories of conflict. The internal conflict takes place within the minds of the characters, and then the external conflict, this takes between individuals or between individuals and the world external to the individuals, the forces of nature, human created objects, and environments. So when we say conflict, when we say internal, the problem is within the character. Okay, the conflict is within the person. When we say external, of course, the conflict or yung problema is from the outside to you, to the character. The forces in a conflict are usually embodied by characters, the most relevant being the protagonist, the main character, and the antagonist, the opponent of the protagonist. Okay, alam na natin yan. Bida, protagonist, kontrabida, antagonist. So the antagonist is usually a person but can also be a non-human force or even an aspect of the protagonist. His or her tendency toward evil and self-destruction, for example. So the antagonist is not just a person or hindi lang siya yung kontrabida, but the kontrabida can also be the nature, okay, or anything that is not human, okay? It depends on the story. So questions about plot. What conflicts does it dramatize? Okay, so when that is question thrown to you, so you are lead to a plot. So what is the main conflict? What's the main conflict of the story that I've read? What are the minor conflicts? How are all the conflicts related? And what causes the conflicts? And which conflicts are external, which are internal? Okay, so these are the questions that you are going to consider about plot. What qualities or values does the author associate with each side of the conflict? Where does the turning point or climax occur, and why? How is the main conflict resolved? And which conflicts go unresolved? Why? So, again, these are the questions under plot, okay? Considering plot. So fiction and drama terms. Characters. Continuation, characters. There are two broad categories of character development, simple and complex. So simple or flat characters have only one or two personality traits and are easily recognizable as stereotypes. So it's easy to recognize these flat characters, two personality traits, and are easily recognizable as stereotypes. The shrewish wife, the lazy husband, as simple as that, the egomaniac, etc. Okay? So complex or rounded characters. So have multiple personality traits, and therefore resemble real people. They are much harder to understand and describe than simple characters. No single description or interpretation can fully contain them. For the characters in modern fiction, the hero has often been replaced by the anti hero, an ordinary and glamorous person, often confused, frustrated, at odds with modern life. Okay, question, guys. Please answer this one for class participation. Think of a story or a drama or a fiction. Okay? And then who are the two characters? Who are these two characters? Who is the simple character and who is the complex or rounded character? Who is the flat character and who is the rounded character? Okay, so you just have to say that. You just have to comment that, as simple as that. So just remember or just think about a fiction or a drama that you have encountered already, and then who is the flat character and who is the rounded character. Okay, and why do you say so? He is the flat character and he is the rounded character. Okay, please answer that, guys, for class participation. Now, these are the questions we need to consider when we are going to talk about characters. What is revealed by the characters and how they are portrayed? Are they simple, complex, dynamic, or static? If they are complex, what makes them complex? What are the traits of the main characters in the story? Do they change? How and why? What events or moments of self realization produce these changes? What do they learn? Does what they learn help or hinder them? What problems do they have? How do they attempt to solve them? Do they experience epiphanies, life changing moments or of insight, discovery, or revelation? What emotional reactions do the main characters have and in reaction to what? Do they have traits that contradict another or cause interact conflicts or internal conflicts? I'm sorry. How do they interact with one another? And how do they relate to one another? So these are the questions about characters. So when you are going to interpret or when you are going to analyze a literary poem of composition, so you are going to ask this question for you to identify characters. Okay, the characters. So now let's go to theme. So the theme is an idea or point that is central to a story, which can often be summed up in a word or a few words: loneliness, faith, oppression, rebirth, coming of age, humans in conflict with technology, nostalgia, the dangers of unchecked power. A story may have several themes. Themes often explore historically common or cross culturally recognizable ideas, such as ethical questions and commonly on the human condition, and are usually implied rather than stated explicitly. Okay, so the questions about theme. To help identify theme, ask yourself questions such as this: is the title or are the character names related to the theme? Does the main character change in any way? Realize anything important? Does the author or the characters make any important observations about life, human nature, human behavior? Are themes revealed through actions, dramatic statements, or personalities of characters? If characters convey conflicting values, which value does the work seem to be defending? Are there repeating patterns or symbols? What image of humankind emerges from the work? How is society portrayed? Are characters in conflict with their society? Is the society flawed? If the society is flawed, how is it flawed? What control over their lives do the characters have? And what are the moral issues or conflicts in the work? What did you feel after you read the story? What part of your life connected with the story and where did that connection happen? And what ideas are implied by the total impression of the work? Okay, so these questions will answer you or will help you about theme. Okay, next, symbolism. What do we mean by this? Symbolism. In the broadest sense, a symbol is something that represents something else. Words, for example, are symbols. But in literature, a symbol is an object that has meaning beyond itself. The object is concrete and the meanings are abstract. For example, there are people who love 7 horses. What does it mean? It symbolizes, or the painting symbolizes what? The painting with 7 horses symbolizes what? So that's the question. Okay, so question is about symbol. Not every work uses symbols. Take note of that. Not every work uses symbols. And not every character, incident, or object in a work has symbolic value. You should ask fundamental questions indicating and interpreting symbols. So questions. What symbols does the work seem to have? Are you sure you are not finding a symbol where none was intended? How do you know it is a symbol? What does the author do that gives symbolic meaning to this element? Is there evidence in the text that can be used to understand and develop this symbol? What does the symbol mean? What larger meaning can be understood through this symbol? Okay, next question, guys. When you hear about stone in a literary composition that you read, what comes to your mind? What do you mean by stone? What do you mean by dove? What do you mean by white sand? Okay, please answer that as class participation. Next, setting. So the social mores, values, and customs of the world in which the characters live. The physical world and the time of the action, including historical circumstances. So the setting. You know what? The setting is usually given at the start of the story or at the beginning of the story. So tone, the narrator's predominant attitude toward the subject, whether that subject is a particular setting, an event, or character, or an idea. Then point of view, the author's relationship to his or her fictional world, especially to the minds of the characters. Put another way, point of view is the position from which the story is told. So there are 4 common points of view. I had this in my first video. Okay? Introduction to Literature. Omniscient point of view. The author tells the story and assumes complete knowledge of the character's actions and thoughts. It is when the author knows the mind and the heart or the emotion or feeling of the character. Limited omniscient point of view. What does it mean? The author still narrates the story but restricts his or her revelation and therefore our knowledge to the thoughts of just one character. So limited. Focus lang tayo sa isang character. It's not the same with omniscient, of course. Omniscient point of view. The story is being told na alam lahat ng feelings and minds ng characters. First person point of view. One of the characters tells the story, eliminating the author as narrator. The narration is restricted to what one character says or he or she observes. And then objective point of view, The author is the narrator, but does not enter the minds of any of the characters. So the writer sees them and lets us see them as we would in real life. So ang objective point of view is parang in real life lang na we do not know the mind and the feeling of that person. Okay? Next, we have foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, it is the anticipation of something which will happen later. Na foresee mo na what will happen next. It is often done subtlety with symbols or other indirect devices. We have to use inferential thinking to identify foreshadowing in some stories. And often it occurs on an almost emotional level as we're reading, leading us further into the heart of the story. Okay? And then the last is exposition. Last of this page, exposition. The opening portion of a story that sets the scene, introduces characters, and gives background information may need to understand the story. Okay. And then interior monologue. What's interior monologue? An extended exploration of one character's thoughts told from the inside, but as if spoken out loud for the reader to overhear. Okay, that's interior monologue. And then stream of consciousness. So a style of presenting thoughts and sense impression in a lifelike fashion. The way thoughts move freely through the mind, often chaotic or dream-like. That stream of consciousness. Parang ginigising mo yung consciousness niya. Then, irony. Generally, irony makes visible a contrast between appearance and reality. More fully and specifically, it exposes and underscores a contrast between what is and what seems to be, between what is and what ought to be, between what is and what one wishes to be, and between what is and what one expects to be. Incongruity is the method of irony. Opposites come suddenly together so that the disparity is obvious. Okay, and then climax, the moment of greatest tension when a problem or complication may resolve or at least confronted. Okay, the climax, ito na yung pinaka-aabangan natin. Ito yung pinaka-gitna, of course, of the story. Ito yung where we, arouse our emotion and interest. Okay, resolution, conclusion, or denouement. Untying of the knot. So brings the problem to some sort of finality. Not necessarily a happy ending, but a resolution. Okay? All right. So, guys, well, I just hope you will be able to answer the previous questions. And this is going to be your homework requirement. Okay? This is your requirement, guys. This will be due on Monday. Okay? Monday next. No, I'm sorry. Friday po. Friday evening. Those will be due on Friday. So using the literary vocabulary and questions, let's analyze a literary text. I-post ko lang po mamaya ang rubrics nito. Don't worry. Okay? You will have something to what's this? Or you have something as guide. So you are going to read the memoir, Learning to Read by Jessica Powers. Take note of that, please. Search that one. Learning to Read by Jessica Powers, which can be located, okay, if we have the book, but we don't have the book, you can search it in Google. So Learning to Read by Jessica Powers. Powers employs many of the elements of fiction in this autobiographical piece. When you have finished reading, answer the questions below. So these are the questions that you are going to answer. Okay? What is the main conflict in the story? What causes the conflict? Is the conflict external or internal? So you are going to answer this one, and the first five to answer will be exempted in taking the prelim exam. Okay, guys? So if you will be one of the first five to submit, you will be exempted in taking the prelim exam. So I will just post the rubric of this kind, I mean, of this uh, requirement. All right. So, well, it will be in a Microsoft Word. And then when you save it as PDF. Okay, guys? Save it as PDF. Okay. So, guys, thank you so much. And then, meron pa po tayong part 2. Yan. And guys, the copy of this or the file of this presentation will be what's posted in files. Alright? So makita nyo siya sa files or makita nyo siya sa description in this video, sa YouTube video na ito. Okay? So thank you so much guys. And then abangan nyo lang po yung poetry. So I will have another video about poetry. So thank you so much, guys. And don't forget to answer the questions and then just write them in the comment section. Okay? So 30 minutes. Lumampas lang tayo konti ng 1 minute kasi ang target ko is 30 minutes. So guys, thank you so much. Answer all the questions there. So that will serve as your class participation. Not later than Tuesday evening, until Tuesday evening. So guys, once again, thank you. And please, hintayin nyo po yung part 2 ng fiction, drama, and poetry. Okay? We discuss about fiction and drama because pareho lang sila ng literary forms. So my next video will be about poetry. Poetry lang siya talaga. And then my exam will be up to poetry. Okay? So thank you so much guys, and please abangan ang next video. Bye-bye!